Hello, my name is Trydar, and today I'm going to be showing you a much requested tutorial how to build my version of Vesko's base in Minecraft. Let's get started. So this is quite possibly the largest tutorial I have attempted to do to date, the Great Pyramid included in that. And I know a number of you have already attempted to do this in your own worlds, but for everyone else, I want to go ahead and produce this tutorial to give you an overview and explanation of how to build this for yourself in your own world. For those of you that don't, I will also be providing a second map other than this one, which will have this structure pasted into a normal Minecraft world for you to just go ahead and use that way. But for those of you that want to build it yourself, let's take a look at how the tutorial is going to go today. Firstly, let's take a look at how many blocks you're going to need, which will pretty much necessitate your ripping your entire world apart to get enough materials for this monster. But if you so choose to do it, you will need of the materials in this. As you can see, we've got several main materials here. My materials choice here is the same as Vesko's, but it is just a suggestion. If you wanted to use different materials and colors in your own rendition of this, feel free to do so. And I will also say that these numbers here are approximate, meaning that for the base and things, I have filled that in solid. So you will need somewhat less materials than what I am listing here. But the materials list is as follows. You need 136,015 blocks of dark prismarine, 89,405 blocks of regular prismarine, 48,421 prismarine bricks, 31,589 sea lanterns, 164 light blue stained glass for a floor at an upper tower level, and 5 end rods. So the tutorial is going to be structured in the following way. I will start with a 1 block base over here, and every slice after that, going off in that direction, is going to be going up an additional 2 blocks higher than the previous slice. But before we get to that, let's take a look at marking out our base. Because in your world, wherever you're going to be putting this up, you need to draw something about like this on the ground. Because this building here has 4-way symmetry, meaning what I'm going to be showing you is going to be a quarter of the build, but you will need to mirror that in the other 3 quadrants of the structure. And the base of the square you need to draw out is going to be 227 by 227. And the height of the building is going to be 221 blocks tall, meaning that you need to draw this square down, either in the water or dig down to a level low enough to enable you to build the entire building. Otherwise, you will hit the build limit far too soon and not be able to complete the structure. So once you have got your square of 227 by 227 marked out and drawn down at the appropriate Y level, giving yourself a 221 block headroom above that, you then need to draw in some survey lines about the things that we're going to be building over here. And I'm going to explain some of the distances that the parts are out from each other. One of the things from the very middle over here, as we go up, you're going to want to start building this red wool survey line here, or just out of whatever material you want to, and this will keep track of your building to make sure the center point is sighted correctly. And after you have done that, the width of the octagonal base down here from the center point to this point over here is 48 blocks is this distance. So you will want to put a marker of that so you can sight your octagonal section correctly. The gap from the octagonal section to the outer ring of the piers is 101 blocks, And this includes, by the way, the distance from the center to the outer ring. So if you want to get the gap between here, just subtract 48 minus 101, and that will be about 50 something. The distance from the center point all the way to the edge of the octagonal section around the piers here is going to be 113 blocks. And the distance from the center point to the overhang around here, because these piers go out before they go up, is 133 blocks. But this section here is outside the grid lines that I showed you how to draw earlier. As you can see here, that section will hang outside here, but it's not important for the foundation, so I have not included it in the square. So as you can see here, we've got a quadrant marked out with the red lines below it. Over here, we have our center line where it all meets in the center here. And I'm going to start showing you how to build a quadrant of this base. And as I've said, you will need to mirror this on this side over here and then mirror the entire thing on the other two sides, meaning that this building has a four-way symmetry. So let's talk about establishing the foundation. Now for this, I have made it all solid prismarine, but if you're doing this in survival, I imagine that you're going to want to sort of leave it hollow and just trace out the edges along here. So from the middle to the center point, as I've said, is 48 blocks. So you want to come out 48 blocks and put down your first block, and then go a block here, and then 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, all along here. And you will eventually hit your 45-degree diagonal here, at which point you want to make a turn with your 2, 3 line and go all the way over here. And you can remeasure from the center point over to here, should be another 48 blocks. So you can get that properly sighted, and you will want to do that for your other 3 quadrants. So you'll want to draw your line all the way around there. Once you've done that, you then want to come out over here. And the distance from the 48 block marker out to here is 52 blocks. And this is going to represent the inner edge of the octagonal ring. As you can see, we've got some details over here. The width of that, I believe, is 13 blocks. And the total distance is 113 blocks from the center point to the outside of the octagonal ring right here. So you'll want to measure that probably at least 3 times to make sure you've got it correctly done. Otherwise, if you get off 1 block when you're building this, it would just be nightmarish. So you want to make extra certain that you've got your distances calculated correctly. So with that done, the outer octagonal ring follows the same pattern I just showed you of the inner ring. You have your 2, your 3, your 2, your 3, your 2, your 3, and so on and so forth in that exact line. And you will want to follow that until you get to this section here, which is sort of an interface section, because this forms one of the bases of one of the diagonal piers over here, and this is one of the straight piers. And you're going to be building 8 of these giant things. So let me go over here and give you a good top-down view, because you want to replicate the block pattern that you see here for the foundation. And let me trace some of these out for you. I believe this distance here is 6 blocks, and then we come out 2 blocks, curl back in 1 block, and then we start our 3 and our 2 and our 3 and our 2. From here to out here should be 13 blocks. And I left a little gap here. You can probably leave all this hollow in between here and here to save yourself some materials. And from here to here, that looks like it's going to be what, 8 blocks? Yes. And then you want to start your 2, your 3, and your 2 and your 3 all the way around. You'll want to do this from both ends, and they should collide somewhere in the middle, in which you want to make this design here for the base. Let me give you a good long look at this. And let's go down here and count it out a little. From our center line here on either side, we've got a diagonal there, 4 blocks, and then curl in like that, and then 4 more blocks that way. And that should collide with your 2 and your 3 line that's coming from that direction. And if you have your 2, 3 line coming in this way, when you get to the diagonal, you want to count out how many blocks is that? 6 blocks from there over to here, which should coincide with your diagonal line there. And in between that, you can leave all of those hollow. All right, let's take a good top-down view of everything we have going here. To get some altitude, I'll give you a good long look at this here. So this is the foundation for the base. You want to replicate this, as I've said, 3 more times, and take your time to get all the measurements just right. So once you have done that and established all the lines for the base, the good news is all you have to do for this phase, we're going up, as I've said, 2 blocks. You want to come over here and extend these walls up by 2 blocks on the same line all the way around. And at this point, you can leave this stuff back here hollow to save yourself probably quite a bit of materials. And back here, you just want to go along and extend the walls up 2 additional blocks here and here with pretty much the same materials. Actually, I think this phase is fairly easy. You're just going up all the way around 2 blocks around the entire perimeter with dark prismarine. And you can pretty much ignore this stuff around here. You can leave all this hollow. So we will quickly move on to the next phase. We have a lot of phases to get through in this tutorial. I think I'm probably going to have to break this up into 2 videos, actually, depending on what the length is. Over here, let's start in the middle and work our way out. So we have our control line going up along here, and I put some handy signs along the roadway here. Now we're going to be going down because at this point, your base in the last phase is 3 blocks tall. It is now 5 blocks tall, so you can use this and the Y level as a reference guide when you're building this to make sure you and I are on the same page of this. And for this phase, I filled all this in with solid stuff, but you can cut down on your sea lantern bill by quite a bit by leaving this hollow. And you're just going along here, and you're going up 2 more blocks around the entire perimeter along the same lines. On top of those, just put a block of prismarine and then a band of sea lanterns on top of that. And you want to do that all the way around the central octagon. And you want to do the same thing on the interior edge of the outer octagon and the exterior edge of the outer octagon also. It's only at this point here where we're starting to build Vesko's piers, which are going to be going up from this point here. I believe in his design he has these hollow, and I have pretty much copied and pasted these directly from his world, so they will be the same as he described in his own tutorial. So I will remark on this just a little bit. Looks like at this point we have a a gap here. It looks like it's a 2x2 gap. And in the middle of these, what Vesko did with this is instead of making this a solid thing here, he cut this back and then added a line of sea lanterns behind here for the lighting on both sides around here. And you will see as we go up the structure, every time there's an interface, you can kind of see it here. Between the prismarine and the dark prismarine, there is hidden lighting of sea lanterns behind that. And for the outer octagon, I continued that theme. Let's look here at the center. You're just extending all this up around here. And for the diagonal piers, you're doing the same thing along here. And on both sides around here, you're leaving a little 5-block gap here. And a little gap back there. And then you're starting to extend the piers up. And as I've said, you can leave all this hollow in the middle here between the lines. So, going on to the next phase over here, let's go to the central octagon. Our height at this phase is going to be 7 blocks. And around here, you want to extend the walls up by putting a cap of regular prismarine on top of the sea lanterns and then shift back to your dark prismarine. You want to do this all the way around the base of the central octagon, all the way around the base of the exterior octagon on both sides, as you see here. And then you're pretty much extending up the walls like this around here. And a little detail in over here. Let's take a look at the diagonal section around here. Over the top like that. And the interior one, you just pretty much extend straight up. And remember to add the hidden lighting of sea lanterns back in the recesses over here. And that's a fairly simple phase. And let's go over here to the next phase, which gets more complicated because we're going to be establishing the base of the piers of the central tower. So at this phase, our structure is 9 blocks tall. And it's also around this phase, if you want to add some beacons, you can put them around here. I've designed this tower to house 5 beacons, but if you only want 1 or 3, you can put them around here. And here, there's a little detail of sea lanterns and dark prismarine. At this level over here, this is going to be the floor you walk on, which I think at this level, depending on where you build it, if you put this out in the sea, this will be underwater. But if you put it on land, you will have to dig down to excavate down to this level before you build it. So let's go around the side here. You will be extending up the side walls here with dark prismarine. 2 blocks there. All the way around the octagon. But behind those, you want to follow your 3-2 line. And you want to make a 3-block deep section of dark prismarine following that same line all the way around the rim of the octagon around here, as you see done here. And also, following that, we want to now put in the base platforms for the central pier of the main tower. So I will describe those to you. So the easiest way to get these measurements is going to be from here. This is 3 blocks wide, and you leave a 3-block gap here. And then from here to here, you want to draw a 15-block long line here. And this is along the center line, by the way. So on either side of this, you want to come out over here and draw a 7-block line. But from here to here is going to be 8 blocks. So that's 8 including your center line. But not including the center line over here is going to be 7 blocks long. And on the other side over here, you want to continue mirroring it another 7 blocks. And once you have that marked out, let's come over here and we will draw a diagonal line following the lines that you should have below this somewhere. From the center over here, you want to draw out 8 blocks from your center. I believe this is going to be 9 blocks, including your center. And then you will put down your first bit of dark prismarine here. And then on either side, you want to come out 6 blocks over there and another 6 blocks over here, including your center line. And then I believe this is a square structure. It should be a square. So from here down to here is going to be 11 blocks and another 11 blocks here. So it's a 45-degree 11 by 11 square that you want to site in this location. And remember, including the center line over here, it's going to be 9 blocks out this way. And on the 10th block, you then want to put the center of your diagonal platform over here. And you can draw some more lines in here to help you site that appropriately. And it should be on the same 45-degree angle as the exterior line here, pointing towards your diagonal pier. So with all that described, let's go out here and take a look at what's going on in the outer octagonal ring. You want to add out here the same thing that we did along the inner octagon with the dark prismarine. You want to have this 3 blocks wide, following the same 3-2 line all the way around on the inside and the outside. And you want to leave a little pathway along here like that. And for the piers over here, you're just extending everything up on the inside here. And the inside over here. And let's take a look at the diagonal. It's pretty much just going straight up over here at this point. And on the exterior over here, this is what it's doing out here. So with that done, well, let us now go on to the next phase over here, which I believe we are going to be at 11 blocks tall. So let's take a look at the inner octagon, what we're going on around here. The base of the inner octagon, by the way, it was completed in the last phase. So what we're going to be doing from this point on for the tutorial is I'm going to pretty much be describing the outer and inner piers to you. So on the base platforms that you drew in dark prismarine earlier, you then want to come along according to this pattern here, which you can, it's pretty simple. You can just look at this and reproduce it. You're pretty much just making a square of prismarine, and then you're leaving a 2-block gap all the way around that, and then you're having this outer thing along here, which is the banding that frames the outer structure like that. And this particular pattern here is the basis of what Vesko designed for his piers. So we're going to be seeing a lot of this pattern as we continue with the monument. So you want to do that on all the corners of what should be 4 piers. There's half of one over here and another half of one over here. And here's a complete diagonal. And you then want to follow the same pattern you did for the straight ones, except just make it 45 degrees according to this pattern that you see done here. All right, with that done, you want to take extra time, by the way, to make sure when you're building these to make them accurate. Otherwise, your building will be a little bit warped and not meet properly at the top. And you don't want to have that happen. So, on the outer edge here, we have our piers are now 2 blocks tall. And they are going up according to this pattern over here. And I think when I was copying and pasting this, I made some mistakes around here. You want to have this stuff through here be solid sea lanterns, by the way. So fix that when you're doing this. And I will try and fix that on the reference model before I make the download for that. But the outer octagon along here, as I said, is complete, as is the inner one. So the entire base of your structure is complete. So let's go around here and take a look at the piers along in here. And as I've remarked, this stuff around here doesn't matter. Just leave this hollow. And build the foundation for your pier like you see done here. This is the same exact foundation as we just built out here. And the inner pier here, of course, has the same foundation as this outer pier does here. So once you build one diagonal and one straight, you will immediately see the pattern that you need to start replicating around the structure. So with all of that complex explanation done, I believe we can make up a bit of time in the tutorial. We are now at 13 blocks, and you are just extending up everything that we laid out in the previous phase up 2 more blocks on the inside and the outside. Now for this, I have replicated the alternating pattern of prismarine and prismarine bricks. But if you don't want to do that, you can just combine the 2 numbers I gave you for prismarine and prismarine bricks into your total for whichever materials choice you choose to use. Let's move on to the next phase. We're now at 15 blocks tall. We are extending up the piers 2 additional blocks according to the same pattern that we have already established on the inside and the outside. That was easy. And the next phase is somewhat like it. We are now at 17 blocks tall, and the diagonal pier is extending straight up. However, the exterior piers here are now beginning to curve out a little. Over here, you want to have 2 blocks done out like you see here. And you're also going to want to, on the interior, start stepping out your sea lantern by 1 additional block there. And you're going to want to do that on those sides. And here's the interiors of those. So it is just this detail here. Same over there. Let's go out to the outer pier here. I believe this is just going straight up with no changes from the previous phase. However, the pier on the outside here mirrors the one you've done over there, except the diagonal is on the outside of the pier over here. Okay, and I believe everything else is the same on that one. So let's fly over here to the next phase. Going up 2 more blocks. The building should now be 19 blocks tall. Take a look at the first diagonal pier here. This one appears to be going straight up with no changes. The side piers here, however, are extending out another 2 blocks that way to make the 45-degree angle over here. And the sea lanterns are also stepping out 2 blocks set back here on the inside like that. So that is happening on this side here only. And over there, you want to build the same thing. And on the exterior piers facing in the opposite direction, you want to build the same thing. As you see done here. And I believe the exterior diagonal piers are just going straight up at this phase. It's going to be a little while before they start to curve. So let us go on to the next phase over here. At this point, your base should be 21 blocks tall. Take a look at the diagonal pier. It looks like we're still going straight up on that one, all the way around. And here we get a little bit more detail on our exterior piers. As you can see, the width of the 45-degree diagonal is going to be 5 blocks. And I think without exception, all of these piers for the diagonals are going to have a 45-degree diagonal width of 5 blocks. So when you get to 6 blocks over here, you then want to leave a little gap. And on the interior here, you then want to edge it out with sea lanterns, as you see done here. And along here, we're just going straight up on these outside corners, like so. And you want to build that again, but you want to mirror it and have it facing in the other direction on the exterior of this pier over here. And of course, the diagonal pier goes up like the interior pier without change. So let us go over here to the next phase. 2 blocks farther up, we are now at 23 blocks tall. The interior diagonal pier for the tower, it now starts to curve in as well. And it is curving in on this side, 2 blocks like that, with some sea lanterns back here. And the sea lanterns are they have this diagonal pattern that they're going to be going in. And I believe that happens on this side also. So as you can see, you'll want to build that out like you see done here and have it facing inwards towards the center line of your base. And let's take a look at the diagonals on the piers over here. As you can see, we're continuing the 5 block wide pattern here. And it is very soon going to collide with this section over there. And you want to have your sea lanterns arranged in this pattern here. As a rule, you pretty much always want to set them 1 or 2 blocks back from the dark prismarine on the inside and the outside here. And I believe on the inside, the sea lanterns are following a diagonal done like that on the inside here behind the prismarine. Of course, you're doing that on this side also. And once you've done that, you want to replicate the same thing on the exterior pier here, but facing in the other direction. And also, for this pier over here, you want to replicate it pretty much exactly as you have done over there, but you want to have it facing your center line over here. So this is a little complex, so I will take a little bit more time and give you another close-up view of this here. The exterior here is pretty much plain. You want to mirror it on both sides, and the interior is going pretty much straight up from there. Pretty easy pattern. It's a lot of blocks, but the basic pattern and shape of the base itself is not all that complicated when you break it down like this. So at this phase here, we are now at 25 blocks tall for the base. And for the diagonal piers, you want to extend the pattern up like this. You're still going up at a 45-degree angle, but you're doing it at a diagonal, of course. And for the sea lanterns on this, you then want to start stepping them in like this here from below. And you'll want to do the same pattern on both sides over here. And the diagonals for your side piers are now interfacing with the dark prismarine on this side. So as you can see, we've got a 5-block thick band of dark prismarine that goes in a 45-degree diagonal like that, with sea lanterns behind it. And the interior here is plain on this side and plain on that side. And you want to replicate that same pattern, but facing in the other direction out here, of course. And replicate this thing over in here with the pier that is out here with the same exact design. So it's fairly repetitive. I believe around your base, you're going to be doing that 8 times for all of that. So let's move over here to the next phase. At this height, your base should be 27 blocks tall, and we're finally getting some changes in here on the interior of this. You want to draw a line of dark prismarine across that level there. And then over here on the diagonal piers, we're getting the full height of the diagonals. As you can see here, they are, of course, 5 blocks tall. And that is going to be a rule for the rest of the base. So anytime you see one of these, they're going to be 5 blocks tall. Like this will end up being that tall and that tall and that tall. And so we go around the structure. You're hiding, of course, your sea lanterns behind that. And you're doing the same thing on both sides. And you're doing the same exact thing out there. And you're, of course, copying the same thing you see done over here. And you can just look at that and replicate it. It should be fairly easy to see where this is heading. However, on the outside here, there's a small change. You want to do a band of dark prismarine across this with some sea lanterns underneath it, and because this is going to be where these piers start bending. So let's immediately go on to the next phase over here. At this one, we are now at 29 blocks tall. The interior of the diagonal pier is being constructed like so. You're extending that little band of dark prismarine up, but then you're coming out and over with a 1-block wide band of dark prismarine on top of that. Along there. Let's give you a good top-down view of what's going on here. And I believe the exterior is going straight up of that, and the sides are going up according to this pattern here. As I've said, they're 5 blocks tall. It's a repeating pattern, so you should see where that is going. Same thing on both sides over here. And the outer ring here, we now have this is extending out in that direction. It's going to be going out at a 45-degree angle that way for a little while. So you'll want to build it out like you see done here from below. The sea lanterns there. You want to leave a little gap along here for some regular prismarine along here. So I'll give you a good long look at this from the inside here. And you want to mirror that exact same thing on the exterior here, except in the opposite direction, as you know by now. And from this point, I believe we can head over to the next phase. At this level, your base should be 31 blocks tall. Let's take a look at what's going on with the diagonal pier here. It's getting a little complicated because we have a curving diagonal shape. So for this, once you've built your last wall there, you're going to want to come out on the sides here and build these sort of 5-block bent things along here. But they need to come out an additional block here on the sides. And these are meant to represent the same thickness as the 5-block detail we have going on the sides here, except they're now curving out and over this section here. And you want to build them exactly the same on both sides along here. And I'll give you a view of what we've got going on in here. We've got some hidden sea lantern lighting here. And the prismarine behind that is also being stepped out by the same pattern there. So let me give you a good top-down view of this here. It gets a little messy in this segment over here, but do your best to replicate it. And the exterior is just going straight up over here. I believe we have almost finished the first side diagonal over here on both sides of those. And of course, you want to mirror that exact same thing out here. Now let's go over here and take a look at what's going on with this pier. We have a very plain wall over here. This has been going straight up since we built it. The diagonal here, it hits the prismarine, but then it continues on out this way over here. And it is still a 5-block thick line going that way. And it has the same sea lantern detail, the hidden lighting in there. And over here, this is what it looks like from below here. The diagonal bands I spent some time explaining over here, this is the straight version of that, which is going out like this. However, this one is 3 blocks wide. But when you're doing diagonal things in Minecraft, sometimes you have to extend them to sort of 5 blocks to make them look visually accurate when you're doing that. So along here, you want to start hiding in your sea lanterns back here. That's primarily why these are 3 blocks thick. And here is a view from the top and from the inside over here. And of course, replicate that entire thing facing in the opposite direction over there. And do that for all the piers around your base. And we will move on to the next phase over here. We are now at 33 blocks tall. And let's take a look at what's going on with the diagonal in here. As you can see, we're pretty much extending upwards and outwards the pattern with the dark prismarine I described to you from below there. Let's take a look at the interior here. And it is stepping out with prismarine with the same pattern as the dark prismarine. And the diagonal from below here, as of course, as you will expect, is extending outwards in this direction also. So let me give you a good top-down view of what we've got going on here. And from below, and let's take a look at from the inside also. So pretty much the same pattern that you did, but you're just extending it outwards a bit more. And over here for the straight pier is the same thing, extending outwards and upwards another 2 blocks out in that direction over there. And I believe the wall over here also has a little band of dark prismarine right here, because we're going to be doing something over here finally at this level, and you want to replicate the same things over there and over there along all the piers on the interior and the exterior of the octagonal rings. So this concludes part 1 of the tutorial, because I'm going to have to break this up into several parts because it's already getting very long according to my timer. And once the videos get over a certain length, it becomes very difficult to edit and upload and render them. So I'm going to, by necessity, need to break this up into however many parts it's going to take to describe this. But this should keep you quite busy in the meantime, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.